I've been invited this evening here to introduce my new book, which is called The Flowers Tell It All, and it's published by Baco Publishing, a nice little publishing company in Ottawa. And if anybody wants to know, if anybody here is an author that wants to be published, come and see me. I'll tell you about these guys. They're really nice. Anyways, this particular story deals with true events that happened between the years 1967 and 1970. I wrote the book in collaboration with those involved, amongst them Nancy and Val, who many of you know quite well. The book, destiny would lead a group of young people to come together. A friendship would be formed, and this friendship would be one that was to last forever, and it did. We'll meet the Padgang members, share their story, a true story of camaraderie and resolve. Well, the book is divided in two parts, the story and the testimonials. I wrote the story, of course, in collaboration with the other people, and the Padgang members added their own accounts of those days, which is their testimonials. That's in the second part. Most of the events take place in NDG, so if any of it is from NDG, you'll know where it is. We dedicated this book to two people, Spiller Joe and Mr. Smiles Tino, two members of our gang who are no longer with us. And Tino died 3 hours after Val and I and another friend had gone to visit him at the Mount Sinai Hospital. So I'm going to read to you a few little excerpts from the book just to introduce you. Those were the 60s. Peace and love was everywhere, and a new awareness had taken hold. Brotherly love had replaced indifference, and people accepted one another for who they were and not for what they did. Differences such as color of skin were celebrated, as opposed to being abhorred. People embraced one another in a true spirit of love, and all of this was reflected in the songs, lyrics, as well as the music, and in the colorful clothing that people wore. Justin was just having a little taste, and whether he was going to embrace it was solely up to him. Welcome to the pad. Well, Justin was sitting on a park bench at NDG Park when he was approached by a young man who introduced himself as Joe Bergello. After a lengthy conversation, Joe invited Justin to accompany him. Me and the guys have an apartment on Prudhomme, down at the corner of the Maisonneuve, where I first met you the other night. All of us live at home, so the apartment is just a hangout. We call it the pad. If you have nothing to do, you can come along with me. Maybe some of the guys will be there, and you can meet them. Joe explained. Joe had a sense that Justin was rather lonely, and being the considerate person that he was, he had invited his new brother to accompany him to the pad. For some unknown reason, Justin accepted the offer. Maybe it was the way Joe had proposed it to him, or maybe it was Joe's friendly voice. Anyway, Justin was on his way to a new place. I already had a pad of my own. Nancy's in my place, says Val in his testimonial. The guys had rented an apartment, the pad, on the corner of Prudhomme and des Maisonneuve. I have never seen a place that was so shape as this place was, and managed by a bunch of guys. It became a regular place for the guys from the band to hang out in. It was also a place for me, or Nancy and I, to frequent, and that we did. The pad is where we had some of our most interesting times. When we weren't watching the TV on the 2-channel TV set, we were accompanying Ernie with our voices as he sang various ballads of the time. If we weren't doing that, we were either chewing the fat or composing songs. By the way, we called it Jimi Hendrix Place. It was 1969. 1969 was approaching, August. Preparations were being made for the annual feast at St. Raymond's Parish. Val and Egidio met with the priest to ask if Magic Holiday could perform during that Sunday evening festivities at Oxford Park. The priest had no objection since the band was doing it at no charge. Well, everything was set into motion. That evening, the Italian marching band who occupied the stage would not let Magic Holiday play. Long-haired hippies for them. The priest was not there to see to things. Well, just as the fireworks were going to be set off, the person in charge of the stage agreed to let Magic Holiday play one song. Quick, the notes to set me free, instructed Ernie. Egidio played the notes on his keyboard loud and clear. At least the pad members were there to support the group. Suddenly those who were heading off to the fireworks heard the notes and quickly turned back. Now this is how Val and Nancy remember the event. In no time at all, there was a huge crowd in front of the stage. The music played and the crowd began to sing and dance. Set me free, why don't you, babe? Get out of my life, why don't you, babe? Ernie led the band into another song. The crowd began to push towards the stage. The police arrived and formed a barrier between the band and the crowd. Nancy, who was carrying a child and expecting to deliver quite soon, was being crushed. Val signaled for her to come to the stage, but the police would not let her through. The band stopped playing. The crowd began to shout for more music. The police asked the band to resume playing. Well, not until Nancy is here with us, insisted Val. The police relented, and Nancy was escorted onto the stage by Lino, and Magic Holiday resumed playing. We spent many a day at the Donut King on St. Jacques West for coffee and a dozen or two donuts. I remember the waitress there took a liking to us and called us her boys. She was a lovely woman and always treated us like her sons. Good memories, says Ernie in his testimonial. While his other half, Anna, who happens to be Val's sister, says in her testimonial, the band was only one part of the Pad Gang. We, the gang, spent a lot of time together having fun. There were surprise birthday parties, one was my own, beach parties, New Year's Eve parties, horseback riding days, and so many more memorable activities. Many, if not all, have already been mentioned in this story and or testimonials. I am glad to have been part of those memories. We were often together doing all sorts of activities. I was given a job of inviting girls to so many of the events, and I did just that. And one more little tidbit. Before I wrote this testimonial, I had the pleasure of reading the story, The Flowers Tell It All, says Nancy. It brought back a lot of beautiful memories. I feel so blessed having been part of this story. My heart is still connected to that family of people whom Val and I mothered over. Molly and Justin, Linda and Frank, the youngest couple of the gang, Anna and Ernie, Rhonda and Eugenio, Sonia and Frank, Louise and Peter, Lino and Angie, Val's sister's friend, Joe and later his other half Heather, and Tina and Darlene, a gal whom we saw very little of. Truth be spoken, we have become a close-knit family. I am very proud and my heart smiles whenever I hear from or see any of those family members. I would like to think that I'm a bit responsible for having helped the Pat family members to grow up, grow together. Love you guys, and of course gals. And now just a short little bit to summarize the story. Summary and rhyme. Once upon a true story of love. She worked part-time at Godot's Coffee House to help with her studies expense. Molly was her name. She studied at Loyola. In her story, there's no pretense. Fate smiled at Molly one very fine eve as she served a young man his food. Justin, the young man, was so out of place. She put him in a pleasant mood. To get out of the rain, he entered the coffee house looking for something to eat. When he got in there, he thought about leaving, so by the door he took a seat. Fate made this happen, it is obvious to see, for Justin stayed until the end. As it says in their story, that very eve, Justin had made a new friend. Molly and Justin fit so well together, their hearts touched right away. A young couple in love, as their story reveals. They are still in love to this day. Several events helped to guide them along. They met people who were really kind. When they met the Pat Gang, who became their family, they left their troubles behind. The Pat Gang, really a cookie bunch, did a lot of fun stuff. Molly and Justin loved hanging with them. They just couldn't get enough. Well, there's so much to the story, a true story of love. It tells of what did befall. I will not say much more. Just read the book. I will let the flowers tell it all. Now, Molly loved to play ballads and folk songs. She also had quite a repertoire of original songs. Amongst her favorite singer-musicians were Bob Dylan, Buffy St. Marie, Melanie Safka, and several others. By Melanie Safka, she played the song I'm Back in Town from Melanie's Born to Be 1968 album. Out of her own original songs, her most favorite was the one entitled The Flowers Tell It All, from whence the title of the book. Now, Plain Folk has been gracious enough to record this CD with the book. By the way, some books are available, all these songs, The Flowers Tell It All. Thank you.